What's up, Internet Land? Nemesis Prime, aka Nemesis Prime, here with another Transformers video review. And today, the figure I'm looking at is the Alternity Nemesis Prime. Now, I've been a fan of Alternity for quite some time. A brother of mine got the Alternity Optimus Prime back when it was pretty new. I wouldn't say it was like brand new, but it was fairly new. And I messed with it and thought that it was super cool. Kind of a smaller version of the Binal Tech and Alternator figures that were big at the time, way back in the mid-aughts. And yeah, so I've kind of wanted to pick one up of my own, but I just never really got around to it. Anyhow, fast forward to recently, a buddy of mine picked up two of these in some sort of a trade or a buy or whatnot. He got a red one and a black one, and he didn't need two of the same figure, essentially. So he's like, hey, you want in on this? And I was like, hell yes, I do. So I've got it. And it's decent. It's this is clearly a used figure, so please forgive any minor blemishes or whatnot. There is a little bit of wear that's on the figure from being, a figure that somebody has handled periodically over the past, 15 years now. So, but yeah, some of the issues are, systemic. I don't think that this hole here is supposed to line up with this peg, and similarly, this peg is supposed to line up with that hole, and I don't know that they ever did, even on the original. Like, if you kind of take this and fold this around and then kind of stick it around this piece of kibble here, then you can, like, kind of fit that into place, kind of, but, like, not really. I don't know that this ever really fit together properly. And I don't know. I just move it like this and keep it all tucked in behind that panel, and it seems to work out just fine for me. And if it works out fine, that's all I really ask. Please just let this be enough. But yeah, it's a fairly handsome looking figure. His proportions are a bit weird, but they look fine for, like, just standing there, which is how, most of us are going to be posing this. It's not like a real action-y sort of figure, so it's not going to be in a lot of real action-y sort of poses. I do wish that there was a better way to do that, but another thing is you can't get too wild with the way that leg fits together, because this is your heel spur right here. This, piece of the outer body panel. And so if you don't have that in a proper place, then it just wants to slide out of the way, and then nothing wants to stand up properly, and then it's all just a big old, goes downhill from there. Yeah, see if I try to get this. And now I'm just bending things to try to make these pegs fit. I don't know. I haven't figured it out. Of course, I didn't get any instructions with this. But when have I ever let that stop me? In terms of accessories, he comes with none at all. By the way, he is a bit bag heavy. This whole, like, internal armature here, it's all die cast, and it all, like, hangs out here. And so as you move him around, his hips are on ratchets, but as you move him around, he does want to lean back. And the heel spurs are such that that's not really a problem in terms of, stability. It's just as you mess with him, he's going to want to go back. So like so. Also doesn't help that, this is like a 15-year-old figure and maybe his hip joints are not quite as clicky as they probably could have been or were in the past. So we're just going to kind of give it a bit of a forgiveness. But yes, in terms of accessories, he doesn't really come with any accessories whatsoever. He's just what you see is what you get. His hands have got like little like fist slots here, but they don't actually have anything that can fit in there. He doesn't come with any like guns or swords or anything like that. He does have little guns. Little tiny guns. Come on, little guns. Fold the flip out. Little guns, come on. There we go. Little guns. Fold out of his forearms. And so he can be like, yeah, pew, 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 pew. Which, according to the story, they're like some sort of reality bending, reality destroying weaponry of some sort. I don't know. They kind of tried to like raise the stakes with the Alternity line and make everything just like hugely world-ending, multiversally disastrous stuff, and it just, I don't know. I don't think anybody really cared about it, but yeah, all in all, he looks pretty decent. He's got little teeny tiny Autobot symbol there, even though he's definitely not a good guy or an Autobot at all. He's just based on an Autobot. This my sample here has got some pretty profound paint chipping on this side and some minor paint chipping on that side, and that's because there's there's a strut for this door right underneath that space, and so when you open the door, as you pretty much need to do for the transformation, that's gonna rub against there, and it sucks. Die cast, huh? It's a lost art, they say, and yet, I don't know. I mean, when I was a kid, the Transformers all had die cast in them. But as I've got older, instead of getting all rose-tinted about the die-cast Transformers, I just feel that they kind of are inferior. Like, I really wish that they didn't have... The ones that have die-cast in them, I kind of wish that they didn't really have die-cast panels and whatnot. I will for sure take die-cast in, like, structural bits. But, die-cast car body panels, I don't like that because everything scrapes up against the outside of your figure. And so you kind of want to protect that. But anyhow, in terms of articulation, his head is on the little ball joint. It looks up ever so slightly. It looks down, not at all. Tiny bit of confused Nemesis look. His head rotates just freely. It's got a big old block on the back. We'll get to that in a little bit. His arm goes around freely, maybe a little bit too freely. The proportions of this arm are weird. So, like, for example, you can raise up his arm. Come on. There's a joint in here. You can raise up his arm to the side. But because the door wing doesn't get out of the way, he's just, like, raising up his arm and then hiding it behind his door. And it's like, okay, that's weird. And if you move this out of the way, I think that's technically how it's supposed to be done. Like this, where you fold that back, and then there's another hinge where you fold this forward. It's just, you have to wiggle everything past other little pegs and whatnot. There's little pegs in here that I believe are actually die cast. So they're like less forgiving than even these plastic ones. But now when you do that, his arm doesn't really want to come up at all because it gets blocked by this door. So, like, it's, I don't know. Posability is just, it's a thing. You put them on your shelf, you put them in an A stance, you leave them, you don't worry about it ever again. Or you keep it in car mode. Car mode is great too. So yeah, he's got an elbow joint for 90 degrees of bend. This little part folds out. the hand is kind of rubbery and it's on a ball joint and it wiggles all around. But since it doesn't hold anything, then you don't do anything with it. It just kind of sits there. And it's kind of got this awkward position of, well, where do I put my hands? You all know how that goes. You've stood somewhere in a fancy suit before. That's this guy. This guy's got a fancy suit. He doesn't know where to put his hands. He doesn't know what to do with his hands. No waist joint because there's like a huge transformation axis that goes right through his waist. Hips go forward that much, go backwards a little bit before they start hitting into that kibble. Go out for 90, 80%, 80% of a Van Dam. You don't get a thigh swivel, but you do get just above the knee bend. You got a little clicky knee there, which is actually pretty nice. I do like some of the like tiny but functional hardware that's in this figure, like ratchets and whatnot. They're kind of nice. It's a lost art. Fuck diecast. It's the ratchet joints are a lost art. In my explanatory messing around with this, I seem to have uncoupled something. And then his toe is on a ball joint, so it's on a hinge and a ball joint actually, so it moves all around. But because the heel spur is this fixed point, the more you move this, like it rotates a little bit, the more you move this, the more out of whack it gets. And so it doesn't really, like this hinge isn't strong enough to support this figure. I say almost immediately supporting the figure. Okay, whatever. You know what? It's a ball joint on a hinge. You all know how that works. Toys just got to show me up all the time. So all in all, in terms of figure, the way it looks and the way it plays, all of this would be better if this was a fresh figure, and it's not. And so I kind of give a lot of things a pass. The shoulders, I give a pass. The knees, I give a pass. The hips, I give a pass. However, some of the issues are down to the weird proportions of this, which I don't give a pass. I do like some of the engineering ideas that they had back in the mid-aughts. But ultimately, you know, this was an ambitious figure that, you know, sought to make a Nissan GTR first and a Transformer that looked like anything recognizable second. And in that regard, it does a wonderful job. And that's a perfect segue to get into the transformation, which again is kind of a mess. So I'm going to put this back how it was. And it's already getting scratched. Come to think of it, I'm not sure that outer panel is die cast. It's got real glossy paint on it. I don't know, I've been handling enough that I'm not sure that Jobby's cold touch technique would work. But I can tell you that it doesn't feel cold to the touch. Also, it's got this like really glossy black, this car finish black. But I mean, this panel, which I know for 1000% certainty is plastic, also has that car finish panel on it. So, I don't know. So, fold the wings out like so, and then we're going to take this and fold this up kind of into place. Well, okay, this is going to slide over. And then this is going to kind of fold into place. This little tab here is going to stick out. And it will technically clip into that, but it's not really going to clip. It's just going to pretend like it clips. I also like to kind of, I think what I like to do with the hands is fold. It's been like 2 months since I've transformed this guy, so he's been sitting on the backlog for a while. And we're going to do the same with the other arm. So straighten out the shoulder, bring out the seat, slide it over. Bring this all up, 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 up. I think this is where I like to put the hands, like so. Take this little panel right here and fold that out. By the way, I want to point out one of the things that they did with this. If we decouple this for a second, when this seat slides in, you'll see that it will automatically transform this this little panel here. Kind of a crude sort of automorphing mechanism. This was back in the days of, I don't think the Dark of the Moon had come out yet, but Revenge of the Fallen had, and some of the automorphing mechanisms that they incorporate in that make their way into this sort of thing as well. We want to rotate this head all the way around, because in a little bit that's all going to fold away. Before we work this part here, we kind of want to focus on this lower legs a little bit. So you want to take this and move this all kind of forward, and then with this kibble all the way forward, you can take this and slide this out and around all of that. And then you want to decouple this, bring this around. There's a panel here that you want to fold back on itself. And then this is going to kind of come around. That bumper section is going to fit into there, and then the taillight section is going to fit into there. And then the foot is going to come and fold in on itself like so, just to kind of put itself into position. And we're going to do the same. We're going to leave this panel open like it is, and we're going to do all the same with this other side. So bring this section out all the way, bring that around, fold this up, and leave it out. Twist this around, and wiggle this bumper and taillight section into place. And then, oh yeah, I also want to point out there's a little slot here and then a tab in there. So if you can get that tab and that slot to line up, then good for you. Otherwise, don't worry about it too much. And so then what we're going to do here is we're going to take and decouple this, and we're going to fold this up. And you'll see it's on this little mechanism where it comes up and then kind of shifts down. And as it does that, this little belly section here folds away. Kind of clever. And then we're going to take and it's going to do like the same thing, but for this side. So you see how there's this double armature thing for the lower body and one for the upper body. So a little bit of automorph stuff on there. Kind of clever. I dig it. It's fun. A little bit of, Takara patting themselves on the back about how clever their engineering is. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad. It certainly is. It's the sort of thing where, of course, at the time that this was being designed, Transformers being designed and realized in CAD software wasn't exactly brand new, but it was making advancements then that we all have now. The advancements that we have today, they were new back then, and so in a way this was also a tech demonstration. And you can't fault someone for loving their own work. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to take these doors and we're going to fold them back. And as we fold them back, these are supposed to split and shift backwards. And as that shifts and splits backwards, the head kind of folds itself away. More automorphing stuff. And I'm not sure if the issues that I'm having with this are due to the age of the figure or if it's due to just the mechanism was kind of an infancy feature, and so it's not as fully realized as it should be, or as it could be nowadays. There's little homes for these parts to go, but most specifically, you want to tab. There's little pegs on these arm parts and little holes in there, and you want to make sure that that all tabs together. And then with the doors open and this hood section, this hood and this roof floating free, now you want to take and manipulate this into place. Tab those together. And then this is going to come down and tuck in to that spot there. And then these are going to close in to their spots there. And kind of give everything a nice little squeeze to kind of help seat everything home. And there we have him in his alternate mode. And you know, as far as car formers go, it's really not that bad. I've got a panel that has not seated properly. What's the story with that? Ah, there's a peg on the inside that didn't peg in. There's a peg on the inside that doesn't want to peg in. There we go. But yeah, he's got opening doors. You can see the little steering wheel in there. It's got, ooh, it is really hard to see. Black interior in shadow. You can see shifter, parking brake. I think it's even got cup holders. I don't know. A fairly well detailed interior is what I'm getting at. The hood opens up and there's, you know, an engine detail, though it doesn't look like any engine I've seen. And then you can even open up the trunk. The trunk, there's no trunk space, but you can open it. There are even back seats though. And I want to say even the back seat has its own cup holder. So it's a decent looking car model. In this day and age, I mean, as a figure, this is going to look good on a shelf. You know, if you put it in a pose and you just don't touch it, because it's very finicky, especially after all these years. Oh yeah, you can see like the brakes and stuff in there. That's kind of cool. I think I'm actually going to keep this in car mode. I think that's how I'm going to feel about that. But rubber tires, little tiny GTR symbol on the hood there. Rolls like a champ. It's got good heft to it due to the die-cast content that's in there. But ultimately, it's an ambitious figure that I think it did what they wanted it to do, which is focus on the alt mode. And I don't know. I guess I can't really say how well the rest of it was, because I mean, I want to say that it's not really all that great these days. But like these days, we've been spoiled by some, you know, pretty good first party and some really good third party figures. And I think that, you know, somebody could have designed, especially a third party company that wasn't working closely in hand with Nissan, because of course Nissan is going to want all of the cool car details: opening hood, opening doors, opening trunk, and whatnot, and those put restrictions on the figure. And maybe that's what part of the issue with this figure was, is that because they were dealing with the restrictions of, you know, it's got to be licensed, and so it's got to meet with what the licensor wants. But I don't know. All in all, it's not a bad figure. I don't know that I would pay more than, in this day and age, 30 or 40 bucks for it. I know that they go out there for like 80 or 90. But if you really want to get one, try and find one on a deal. But that's all I've got to say about it. I'll give this a half suggestion, a half recommendation. But thanks everybody for watching. You guys are fantastic. Everybody stay awesome and be good to each other. See ya. Bye.